皆さん、こんにちは, and welcome to Shogo's podcast. So, this is again about a comment or opinion that I often get, and I'd like to share with you my ideas. This is not the Shogo getting angry or negative series. I never became negative, but Shogo became angry series. No, this is something more of a calm opinion sharing with you guys. So, to make a long story short, basically the opinion or comment that I often get whenever I talk about manners or rules in Japan, like for example the taboos, taboo series in my channel, there are a few people who tell me, well, usually Japanese people wouldn't expect foreigners to do this much. Or there are people who are people from overseas telling me that, well, we get the Gaijin, Gaijin Look, and we're basically don't have to follow the rules so strictly, right, Shogo kind of thing, And I get this a lot. I get a lot of Japanese people tend to tell me that you're asking too much from foreigners, and then people who are foreigners say that we don't have to follow the rules this much, right? So, first of all, I want to say that, yes, that's partially correct. That is partially correct. Like, for example, the sushi taboos or, the onsen rules and, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of taboos that I've talked about in the past. Ramen, katana, all these kind of stuff. And it is true that some of the rules, a lot of Japanese people, even if they see someone who are non-Japanese doing it, they'd be like, well, of course, it's because they don't know about it. And they would accept it. And that's a good thing. Of course, that's not a bad thing at all. But also at the same time, there are people who will get very angry or pissed at you. So you do need to be careful. But still, at the same time, I would say 80% of Japanese people will be like, well, of course, they wouldn't know our culture. So they won't get angry or feel any, not feel uncomfortable or anything, like the chopstick rules and such too. So that's completely understandable. And I really agree with that too. But at the same time, basically, this is today's conclusion. The reason why I make my videos like about the taboos and such is because I personally really, really do not like being called by a label, being defined. Like, as I always say, I talked about my tea ceremony calling me an American, and so that I'll never be able to understand some of the essence of tea ceremony because I haven't fully grown up in Japan and such. I really don't like when I was overseas too, like when I was in China, some people, very few, but some people would label me as a Japanese, even though we haven't even talked yet, and they would start defining who I am. This I really, really don't like personally. So, of course, yes, it is true that people will accept you in Japan, even if you can't follow the rules completely. It's impossible, right? We shouldn't, Japanese people shouldn't expect, why do I always mistake this? Expect people to do everything perfectly. It's impossible. When I was working in tourism industry, there would be people standing on, going up to the tatami mats with their shoes on. There would be people, doing random things like standing on the tokonoma, which is the alcove, which is supposed to be the most important part inside the house. They'd be standing there to take pictures. These kind of things, people would absolutely do. Japanese people would absolutely not do. But whenever I see that, I'd be like, oh, you can't go there. I'm really sorry. And I won't be angry at all. How would you know? I would make the same mistakes if I go overseas. But also at the same time, I don't want anyone to say that because you're Gaijin, you don't have to know about these things. That I really feel like you're creating a border, a line they can never cross. Because I know there's a lot of people, if they go to a culture, they really want to be like the people there. You really want to try to blend in, learn as much as possible, experience as much as possible. But whenever someone tells you, like for example, I would love to learn how to use chopsticks to a Japanese restaurant, and then the restaurant says, no, you're a Gaijin, just use chopsticks. You don't have to use chopsticks, just use a fork and a knife or a spoon. You don't have to use chopsticks. We're not even going to be giving you chopsticks in the first place. I talked about this, I think, in a different video, but I have a lot of friends who've been living in Japan for more than a decade. And even whenever they go to a restaurant, for example, they still are provided with forks and knives and spoons and never with chopsticks, even though they love Japan so much, So I think this is really, really sad too. So that's the reason why, regardless of who is watching my videos, I always talk about the manners and taboos that Japanese people are taught. And I don't, draw a borderline myself. I'll let people draw their borderlines on their own. Some people might say, oh, I'm a Gaijin, I don't care. Some people might say, well, you are a Gaijin, we don't care. But I do care about that, if that makes sense. I hope I'm making myself clear. I've been really, really sleepy these mornings because I have been sleeping very short amount of time recently because I'm a little bit busy. But anyways, I really hope this makes sense. And that's the reason why I always explain all of these things in English as well. And I know some people are overwhelmed by all the rules and so on and so forth. But also at the same time, it's just something I want more people to know about. And I personally would want to know about that too. I wouldn't want let's say if I was in China again, I don't want a Chinese sensei, a teacher, to just immediately, judge that you don't have to know about this. You're Japanese. You'll never be able to be like us. You don't have to know about that kind of stuff. I would feel really sad. So this is the reason why I always try to send out the information that hardly Japanese people talk about, because they believe somehow just decide that people from overseas don't have to know about it because they'll never understand. But I think that's very, very rude, personally. But again, I just want to make this very clear. It doesn't mean that Japanese people should always expect people to do everything perfectly. That's impossible too. So we need to be very flexible on both sides, I think. And that's my beliefs, and that's the reason why I make my videos the way I do. So then everyone, as I always say, the ultimate goal of my life is to make all Japan lovers' dreams come true. So I know there's a lot of people studying Japanese willing to come to Japan to travel, study, or work, or even try our traditional culture and such. However, I am very afraid that Japan will not be able to make everyone's dreams come true in the future, because we're facing a lot of social problems, we are losing our traditional culture, and the younger generations who are supposed to be carrying on the good things about Japan are dying because of all the social issues being shoved against them. So I really want to dedicate my life trying to make Japan a better place. I want to try to solve the social problems, preserve and evolve traditional culture, and also help out the younger generations so they can have a brighter future. And to do this, the nearest goal I have right now is to achieve 2 million subscribers by January 2023 on my main channel. So your likes and comments help to boost our videos to new viewers I've never seen on our channel before, so it'd be great if you can help us out. And also, I recently started a Ko-fi page where I am trying to raise money so I can try to become a Japanese language instructor. I want to go to school to get an official license, and also hopefully be doing videos and live streams on my main channel so I can teach you how to learn Japanese. The extra exceeded donations on my Ko-fi page I'll be using to buy extra study materials or taking more qualifications other than the main one I'm trying to take right now. So it'd be great if you can continue to support me until the end of September of 2022. Alright guys, thank you so much for your time, and I really, really hope you have a nice day. Bye-bye.